Welcome back to Broadcast Row at CPAC 2024. I'm Andy Mangione hosting AMAC's Better for America podcast with a special guest. Dale Wilcox joins us. He's the Executive Director and General Counsel for the Immigration Reform Law Institute. Thank you so much for being with us, Dale.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we were talking off camera about the work that you're doing, and it is daunting. So I just want to start off, if you could tell our audience what it is the Institute does.
Yes.
And the premise of the organization.
We're principally a legal organization. So, for instance, during the Trump years, we were very busy defending President Trump's policies in regards to illegal immigration. So we went all the way to the Supreme Court on the border wall, funding for the border wall, the president's powers to shut down the border, and successfully litigated those cases. As you know, things have changed with the Biden administration. All those great policies that President Trump had in place that effectively shut down illegal immigration in this country, Biden reversed those policies right away. Immediately, he issued an executive order that shut down deportations for 100 days. He said, for 100 days, we're not sending anybody out of the country, including those who judges, courts have said need to go. We immediately sued with our partner, the state of Texas. Texas has been great on this issue. And we got that struck down. That never went into effect. So we have been busy in court keeping Biden from destroying this country little by little. Title 42 is another example. My organization drafted the complaint for Texas in that case. We sued the administration. He tried to open the border back up. We said, no, there's still a pandemic. There's still a national emergency order. You're making us wear masks. Mm-hmm. You're making us take vaccines and whatnot, and you're letting people in? I don't think so. So we sued. We kept it going for 2 years into that administration. We kept out 2.8 million people.
Thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing. One of your provisions as an organization is to enact sensible immigration policies. What kind of a shot do we have with this administration at enacting anything that's remotely sensible?
Well, here's the thing. We have great immigration laws. They're not being enforced. Mm-hmm. You know, right now, the talking point is before the election, oh, give me the power. Let's reform. Our system's broken. No, we have the laws on the books. Mm-hmm. President Trump used those laws, and we litigated his power to do that to the Supreme Court. The opposition, anti-borders crowd, did not want those laws put into play or effectuated, and so they took us to court. Well, we won. President Biden has the power. There is an actual congressional statute that says he can shut down the border completely if there's a crisis or for any reason, and he's not using that. He's going out and saying now, oh, I need the power. I need you to reform the laws. No, the laws are there. Enforce the law as written.
Dale, we're talking off camera. The latest number, 7.2 million people have been allowed to enter this country illegally. We're talking about that number approaching the number of our largest city, New York.
Yeah, New York has a population of just over 8 million people. We've almost apprehended 8 million people at the border. The Census Bureau says there are only 10 cities in the United States that have a population of 1 million people or more. So imagine that. 7 million plus we have let into this country. And what's more frightening, 1.8 million people have not been apprehended, but have been seen on camera traffic or trip to censor. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they are. There are terrorists currently in this country. And America needs to be concerned that this administration is not taking control of our border.
That's a nice segue to my next question. Part of what you do at the Institute is educate Americans on the consequences of illegal immigration. How do you do that now? I mean, first of all, you know, we're involved in this. It slaps us in the face every single day because we're engaged. What about that voter in particular, because this is a presidential election year, that may not be, that hasn't encountered an influx and may live in a smaller town? How do you educate people on this crisis that's self-forced by this president?
Well, certainly everyone is feeling it. Everyone's feeling the pinch. American taxpayers pay up to $150 billion a year for this crisis, for illegal immigration. That's the American taxpayers being hit with that. And you see that in communities all across this country where shelters are being diverted from our homeless to house migrants. New York City is being flooded. It's affecting all of America. Every town in America is a border town. We're all being affected. The Biden administration has flown individuals who have come across the border to every community. And if you look at what's going on, the health risk to our communities. I saw a report just yesterday. Measles. We eradicated the measles in the United States in 2000. Eradicated. It's back. 11 states now report incidents of the measles. So you have crime, spikes in crime. We see the gangs, the roving gangs now in Phoenix. I read a report yesterday, Phoenix, Arizona, roaming migrant gangs, illegal immigrants breaking into homes. New York City, we see what's going on there. National security risk, drugs. You know, fentanyl, opioids are the #1 cause of death for people between the ages of 18 and 45 now. The #1. And those drugs, they're coming across the southern border. So opportunities like this to engage and when we get to speak to people and you amplify, you know, our voice and the crisis that America is experiencing right now, it helps us greatly to get the message out.
What kind of resources do you have to get the message out that somebody who's not a lawyer,
Yeah.
okay, a layman, but is very concerned about this crisis, can they turn to your website?
Absolutely, they can come to our website. It's our acronym for the Immigration Reform Law Institute is pronounced IRLI, but it's spelled IRLI.org. That's our website, and then of course you can find us on all the social media channels.
Oh, that's great. So what's on the horizon? How have you been spending your time right now with this administration? I know. How much time do you have?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Principally, as a legal organization, we've been involved in the lawsuits that's going on down at the border. We've been helping Governor Abbott with his Operation Lone Star, which has been very effective, where he has said, we're not taking it anymore. There is a provision under the U.S. Constitution that allows states to protect themselves if they are invaded. Well, they're being invaded by the cartels. And Governor Abbott, pursuant to that constitutional provision, has put up barbed wire. He's put barriers in the river. Texas legislature just passed a great bill that cracks down on illegal immigration. And of course, the opposition is sued. We're busy defending them in court.
Are you working in any other border states?
Well, we are all over the country, and California, Arizona, everywhere there is a room on the border. We're involved, but as I stated, every state is a border state now.
Do you need more cooperative governors? I know who we have in California, who we have in Arizona.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's much easier to get your work accomplished with a person like Governor Abbott. But
Yes.
can you work around these governors?
We can work around them. We have a great coalition of governors who support this issue. We have a great coalition of Congress members who support this issue. In fact, last week we filed a brief in the Senate Bill 4 case there in Texas on behalf of 48 members of Congress.
Okay.
And a huge delegation from Texas, but also all states all over the union who are concerned about this issue.
You just hit on something I was going to ask. This is a state's issue, all right? But you just filed a brief on behalf of 48 members of Congress from a border state.
Yes.
Okay. On a federal level, what can Congress do? I know that the states are fighting bitterly because they're really the ones bearing the brunt of this invasion.
Yeah.
Can Congress become more involved, or is this going to be we're going to fight this out at the state level and it's going to be a slugfest?
I think for now it's the state level, because anything that we would send up to Biden, if it did get through Congress, he would veto.
Yeah.
So would it get through the Senate? No. And sadly, we're a nonpartisan organization.
Understood.
Democrats walk lockstep on this issue pretty much. They're open borders. But then you have just as many, you have Republicans also who care more about big business and less about the little man and less about the middle class, and who are being injured because wages are driven down when you inject all this large number of people into the workforce.
Are you seeing Democrats walk lockstep on the state level as well?
No, on the state level, they're a little more understanding of this issue because it affects their state.
It's in their backyard.
It's in their backyard.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. Dale Wilcox, thank you so much for taking the time to educate AMAC, our audience, and our members on the fight that you're doing, on how grave the situation is. We appreciate the work that you're doing, and just please keep it up.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.